If you live in South Korea and you want to get to Fukuoka, you want to get away, my advice would be to take the ferry. And you'd have to get down to the Busan port. You probably want to get the help of a Korean friend who can help you make a reservation on the Kobe website. Otherwise, if you do speak and read Korean, then you can make your reservation yourself. If you're flexible, if you have the time, I recommend taking the ferry. It's safe, it's fast, it's smooth, and very clean, and it's a wonderful experience. At least all of my experiences on the ferries were wonderful.
이번역은 명역입니다. 내리실 분 오른쪽입니다. This stop is 명역.
I have some really good memories of Japan. From the food to the people, the polite culture, learning the language, the cinema. So many aspects of Japanese culture have impressed me. No wonder I went to Japan 3 times in 2013, 5 times in 2015. Had I had the opportunity, I would have continued, and perhaps in 2016 traveled to Japan 6 times, 7 times in 2017, and so on and so forth. I really enjoy traveling to Japan. What I want to talk to you about today is the Japanese community here in Los Angeles, but also in Japan. I'll start by telling you about a gentleman I met. I would go to visit the city of Fukuoka. I would take the ferry from the South Korean city of Busan, and I would travel 3 hours to the Japanese city, Fukuoka. It was an inexpensive trip, less than $40 round trip. So I jumped at the opportunity. I remember walking down the street in Fukuoka and passing a statue or a mannequin that was dressed up to look like a black man. The name of the establishment was Goodies, and I could see under the name that it was described as an R&B or a soul and R&B bar. There was another picture of Otis Redding I passed this establishment, and after passing, I had a second thought. I said, "Wait a minute. Now, why would I pass an establishment that is obviously calling me? It's obviously speaking directly to me, saying, 'Hey, black man, come here. Get in here.'" This moment was indicative of the warmth and the welcome nature that the Japanese people welcome outsiders, and in my case, welcome black people. So I decided to enter. I doubled back and I went into Goodies Soul and R&B bar. My impression of Japan and my experience in Japan, it spiked up. Things just got progressively better from there. Goody welcomed me. He asked me, where I'm from and my name and so on, so forth and so on. And I told him Los Angeles. And he told me that he lived in Los Angeles at one time. And he continued and he said, "Do you know Crenshaw?" I'm like, "Do I?" I'm from Crenshaw, man. And he just goes in and then Goodies, "Do you know Pasadena?" I'm like, "Yeah, I know Pasadena." He's like, "Man, I know all of these places. I lived in Los Angeles." I said, "Okay, man." So I'm sort of vetting Goody because I want to know, is he authentically interested in black culture? Is he mocking us? Or is this authentic? There is a deep admiration, appreciation, and respect for black culture. And it blew me away. And every time I went back to Fukuoka, I made it a point to stop at Goodies to check in on him. And he would always welcome me, "Larry!" I was like, "Yeah, Goody, what's up, man?" What impressed me about Goody is his bar is decorated with memorabilia that he collected over the years from concerts and events for soul and R&B singers and performers. His favorite, of course, was James Brown. He recorded the live performances of, Barry White and James Brown, of course. And he has a huge, wide collection of soul and R&B records. He is a DJ. I failed to mention that Goody is a DJ. So when people enter his dive bar, he's spinning records. He's playing. He's also the bartender. It's a very small establishment, but Goody keeps the music going. Because Goody had collected all of these things, this memorabilia, I gained a sense of who he is and truly what he appreciates, and that's good music, and that is R&B and soul artists. And for that reason alone, I frequented Goodies. There are a number of black establishments in Japan. In Okinawa, there is Chocolate Milk, and Chocolate Milk. I've been to Chocolate Milk. It's another dive bar with a soul R&B theme. They play soul R&B artists. When I went there, I asked them to play Sam Cooke, and which they did. And there's also, I believe, Harlem. There's Harlem, Chocolate Milk, Goodies, JB's Bar, and many others. But Goodies is my favorite because on my weekends, I would leave South Korea and I would always go to Fukuoka. Now, it really wasn't a surprise that Goody knew Crenshaw as well as he did, or that he had lived there, because the Japanese have resided in the Crenshaw district and the Leimert Park areas of Los Angeles, and have had a strong presence for a number of years. I remember meeting a friend of mine in Japan who was from Baldwin Hills. And I thought, hey, man, I'm from Baldwin Hills. And he said, I am too. I'm Japanese. The Japanese have lived there, you know, much longer than the blacks, which was really interesting. So he told me a little bit about that history, which I was shocked to learn. Although I did have Japanese friends in middle school, well, all throughout my education, and they were from the surrounding community. So their presence, informed me of the Japanese history, in our community. But it wasn't until he told me about his family's history in Baldwin Hills that it really dawned on me, oh, there's a history outside of, the black community, history right here in Baldwin Hills. The day was October 3rd, 2015. I was making another trip from South Korea to Japan. I took the ferry from Korea to Fukuoka. I had met Nanako. Nanako is a soul and R&B singer. I met her at Goodies, and she invited me to a performance at the Seven Gate Auditorium, Lounge, Restaurant. Okay. And when I went to Japan, because Nanako had invited me to her event, I decided I would show up. I went, I had a great time. I saw the different performances from the different groups. There was a trio of women, and they wore afros. And I wondered if I should be offended. They were so warm and welcoming that they weren't mocking, black culture, but they were showing admiration and appreciation. And that is what I took away from that experience. And I enjoyed myself the whole evening, thanks to Nanako. I had a great time that night. I remember Goody asked me in 2016 about Trump's presidency, and he could read the expression on my face, and he was like, first he asked me, so Larry, what do you think about Trump? He's your president now. And I just said, oh man. And Goody said, fuck Trump, right? I say, hey, I didn't say that. You did, but okay. I'm not disagreeing with you, man. But back to October 3rd, 2015, all right? And there I was hanging out in Fukuoka at Goodies, having a good time. Did my normal thing. I remember stopping for some ice cream at a local ice cream parlor, and the young women who were there were cute and very friendly. I had a cigar, and I was smoking the cigar, and they were very curious about smoking my cigar. So they said, hey, let me try. So I said, whoa, you have to be careful with these cigars. You don't inhale, you've got to just puff them. So I taught the young woman how to puff a cigar, and I filmed her. And this was 2015, so this is 5 years ago. And that night, I went to Ichiran ramen restaurant. Now, the one thing that I want to call your attention to is, 109. When I entered the restaurant, the usher led me to booth number 10. And he seated me there at booth 10. And I saw that there were other booths open and available, but he ushered me to this booth number 10. And just above my seat, I could see clearly booth 10 in Japanese, and the number 9 to the right. So I saw 10, 9. I saw 10 and 9 clearly above me. And I thought, wow, this is interesting that he would lead me to this particular booth. I just thought about that, like, hey, that's pretty cool. Now, remember, the date was, um, it was the weekend of October 3rd, 2015, and I stayed in Japan between the 3rd until the 6th, and my birthday is October 9th, 10-9. Okay, so I had an encounter with the numbers 10 and 9, and I thought, hey, that's pretty cool. On my way returning back to Korea, as I'm riding the ferry, I noticed that the ferry assignment, the ferry number is, or the call number and the ferry number is JF 109. So I'm riding ferry 109 from Fukuoka back to Busan. And I'm like, man, that's pretty cool. After I arrived back in Korea, I was headed home. When I got to the train station, I purchased my ticket, and the seat number on the train, I was assigned to seat 10, or I was assigned to a seat in row 10. So it could have been 10A, 10B, 10C. It was one of those seats, but it was in row 10. And I could clearly see above row 10 that the next row, of course, was 9. So there I was, encountering 10 and 9 again. And I wondered, like, wait a minute, why did she choose to assign me? Because I didn't ask to be assigned this seat. I was just wondering, hey, why am I being assigned this seat in row 10? Again, the train was not empty, and I could have sat at row 1, row 21, row 15, row 3. It didn't matter. I could have sat on any of those seats, but they chose the computer assigned seat, the seat in row 10. And I wondered, well, maybe my birthday has something to do with it. And I asked the attendant, I said, okay, why did you give me this seat? Is it because of my birthday or something? And she said, no, I don't have any control over what seat assignment, unless you ask me for a particular seat. Otherwise, it's completely random, basically. So I was really stunned at this. I took a picture, and that was another encounter with the numbers 10 and 9 in the city of Iksan. I noticed that there was a car parked with the license plate 10-9. And this was the date was October 6th. So this was 3 days before my birthday. And I saw the car's license plate, and I took a picture of it, and I just amused myself and said, hey, there it is again. And then I went on with my day. But I made sure to take a photo of it. So those were my experiences with Japan and 109. Now, here's what's crazy about this. In Japan, there is a store called Shibuya 109. There's a store called Shibuya 109. And 109 they chose 109 because when you read 109 in the Japanese language, it sounds like Tokyo, because the number 10 is To, and then the number 9 is Gyu. So if you say To-Gyu, To-Gyu sounds like Tokyo. Since I mentioned Tokyo, or since I mentioned Shibuya 109, I went there after watching a YouTube video about a young woman, Hina. She was the manager. She's retired now, but she was the manager of the Black for Life store, the Baby Shoop Black for Life store. I found her video online and I thought, man, this is interesting, intriguing. I must find this woman. I must take a picture with her. She's an internet sensation. I must see her shop, the Black for Life store. And I went there, and it's just a coincidence that 109, was the name, is the name of the store, and 109 is also my birthday. Peace.